crappy week it is for Ross, right? You get the passing of the great Ozzy Osbourne, Malcolm Jamal Warner, and then today, the Hulkster, gone at 71 years old. Hulk Hogan, wrestling icon, passes away in his house at Clearwater. WWE Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan has died at age 71 following a cardiac arrest at his Clearwater, Florida home early this morning. Newsweek has confirmed. Hulk Hogan's manager, Linda Bowes, told Newsweek Thursday that she was heartbroken over the loss of the star. Unfortunately, we must confirm that Terry Bollea, a.k.a. Hulk Hogan, passed away this morning. She said, "We are heartbroken. He was such a great human being and a friend. Prominent figures have begun to share tributes to the wrestler." What to know? Clearwater Police Department said the emergency crews responded to the 9:51 a.m. 911 call at Hogan's home in Clearwater Beach. The nature of the call was for cardiac arrest. They said in a statement, adding that Hogan has been taken to Morton Plant Hospital where he's pronounced deceased. His wife, Sky, had recently denied rumors of a coma, saying his heart was strong. Hogan had been recovering from neck surgery performed in May. Speculation about his health had circulated for weeks, including deathbed rumors. Born Terry Jean Bollea, Hogan was a central figure in wrestling's rise during the 80s and 90s. Now, the one thing you get out of the way up top, right, is that, yes, over the last, I'd say 10 years, maybe more, Hulk Hogan has been a very kind of polarizing, controversial figure for in not just the political landscape, not just, stupid things that he said on and quite frankly, racist things that he said on tape and other things of that nature. That's no one's trying to either whether defend or any of those things at this point. But I mean, there's tons of and we also talk about the wrestling side of it. He's controversial outside of that stuff with wrestling and what things that he did, politics and all. And I don't mean actual backstage politics, things that he's done. Put it aside for now. The man was a wrestling icon. He was a pop culture icon. There is no one that can convince me otherwise that without Hulk Hogan, you do not get Stone Cold Steve Austin. You don't get The Rock. You don't get any of these people because the business became worldwide and became massive off the shoulders and the back of Hulk Hogan. It was. Do you know the story of kind of how that all came to be, Steph?
No, I actually, I'm not a wrestling person, and so yeah.
Okay, so essentially what had happened.
Tell me about it.
So the WWE was the WWF back then. It was run by Vince McMahon's dad, and Hulk Hogan was a heel at the time, and he was fighting other people too. And then I think he might have gone babyface at one point, but whatever it might be, he wanted to. And this is at the time where wrestling had territories, right? It was not like today. You think of wrestling, you think of WWE, you think of AEW, but there were territories where each different place had, like, whether it was Tennessee or New York or the East Coast. The WWE had a lot of the East Coast territories, right? But there was no massive thing. It was like taboo to even talk about trying to make it a big old one monopoly type thing. So Hulk Hogan was with the WW. I think it might have still been the WWF at that point. Either way, while Vince McMahon Sr. was running it, and Hogan wanted to leave to do Rocky III. And Senior was like, "No, you can't do that. You work for me." Hulk's like, "I'm not passing this up. I'm leaving." Movie blows up. He blows up, becomes big wig. I think he went to, I can't remember what he went, AWA maybe. He went to a different territory, whatever it might be. So fast forward, Vince McMahon Jr. takes over the WWF, brings Hogan back. And this is like 1984. The Iron Sheik was a heel champion. Hogan comes back into Madison Square Garden after the popularity of Rocky III. He comes into the Eye of the Tigers thing, wins the title, and takes the WWF into a place that it had never been before. At that point, the territories then became mainstream. Vince McMahon, because of the popularity and the things that Hulk Hogan was trying to do, started to pluck stars from all over these territories and essentially collapse these territories and turn the WWF into what it was. It was 1985 WrestleMania that was everything that they kind of put everything. They put everything that they had into WrestleMania at Madison Square Garden with Hulk Hogan, Mr. T versus Roddy Piper and Cowboy Bob Orton in a main event tag team match with celebrities everywhere. Like Muhammad Ali was there, Cyndi Lauper. Like it was this big, massive pop culture thing, and it turned the WWF into this huge entity. And it was Hogan who was the star of the show, and he was the star of the show from like 84 really until like 1990. He was the champion for a very long time. He lost the title like a couple different times, but they kept giving it back to him because nobody really could take his place. And he continued. He really was like the difference now. Wrestling has changed so dramatically that in that era when Hulk Hogan was on top, it was treated almost like a Saturday morning cartoon, right? And Hulk Hogan was like the vision of like an ultimate good guy. The say your prayers, eat your vitamins, like all that stuff. And they did cartoons off of it. And he was the first real wrestler to cross over into that mainstream, more so than Bruno Sammartino did before him. More so, like it was just like this. Everybody knew the name of Hulk Hogan. So he really set it up. Like everybody, even people who have talked about him now that aren't fans of him. Like I think of like Seth Rollins, who said, look, growing up, how do you not watch Hulk Hogan? How do you know? Like he was the guy. He comes back and so many different things of what he did. He leaves the WWF when it looked like his time was done. And they were kind of replacing him. This was in the early 90s. And it looked like he was going to retire and just wanted to go into acting. And instead of doing that, Eric Bischoff, who had taken control of the WCW at that point, decided he wanted to try to get Hogan back and try to get Hogan into and make it a rival thing because no one was dethroning the WWF at that point. Hogan became their number one attraction piece, and it got WCW back on the map and started to have them compete. And then when they really took off is they made the move of turning Hogan heel when he had been the ultimate good guy for so long. Then he became the ultimate bad guy. And WCW then took over and beat the WWF in ratings for weeks upon weeks upon weeks in the Monday Night Wars. And Hogan, again, was the centerpiece of that. Eventually, WCW went under. And a lot of that was a lot of the politics that Hulk Hogan was doing behind the scenes. And he got himself involved in a lot of the booking and selfishly stuff. And again, getting away from. Then you fast forward to, and I'm leaving out some of the stuff that had happened in the 80s with steroid trials and all these other things that had happened, right, too. But there's tons of it. There's just so much of it. But Hulk Hogan, because of the relationship he had with Vince McMahon, comes back to the WWF. This is because I was working there in 2001. He came back after I met him once, but it was in Vegas. It had nothing to do with WWE. So he comes back again, now much older, and doesn't headline the WrestleMania where he fights The Rock, but it's the match of the night. Him and The Rock. The Rock's is in his prime at this point. Fights Hogan, who is the icon, and they have this legendary match that was one of the best matches of all time. So he does it again, and he becomes yet again. What he did for the business in general, you can't argue with it. You certainly and are allowed to and warrant to have your opinions on things that he's done. There's no argument there, but you cannot argue the impact that this man had on professional wrestling and in pop culture. I don't know how you feel about this stuff.
Oh man, I'm so glad to finally talk to you guys about Cash App. I've been using Cash App forever, and now I get to talk to you guys about it. Don't worry, it's very easy, fast to sign up. Do you even know how much interest your money is earning you in your bank account right now? Well, let me tell you some stuff. Cash App can do way more than you think to make your money work for you. If you direct deposit at least $300 in paychecks each month and use the Cash App card for purchases, you can earn up to 4% annual interest on your savings. There's no hidden fees, no minimum balance requirements. Also, you can hit your saving goals even faster by turning on the Roundups feature on your Cash App card. With Roundups, every purchase you make using the card is rounded up to the nearest dollar, and that spare change is automatically put into your savings. Don't let your money sit around and gather dust. Make it work for you. Take advantage of high interest savings on Cash App today. For a limited time only, new Cash App customers can use our exclusive code and earn some additional cash. For real, just download the Cash App, use our exclusive referral code, Kristian, in your profile, send $5 to a friend. Within 14 days, you're going to get $10 dropped right into your account. Terms apply. That's money. That's Cash App. Cash App is a financial service platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partner. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, members FDIC, direct deposit, roundups, overdraft coverage, and discounts provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosure.
Yeah, I think yeah, it's one of those like classic separating the artist from the art. And it's I don't know much about wrestling, but I do know his name and I do know his face and I do know like the ripping shirts and I've seen kids enact it. And like it's cool to think about the joy that he's brought in that sense. Yeah, it's I feel, what I will say is like, yeah, I can empathize with people who were just fans of just his wrestling and kind of that legacy, and then also people who were fans and kind of are upset by how the legacy ended, and that's a bummer. But definitely I feel I send love and prayers to people who loved him, and that's a huge loss for people, and that's a bummer. Like 71, I will say, with him and Ozzy, I think that's a pretty good life considering the wear and tear to the body.
100% for looking at what they both did to, in different ways, where Ozzy very, very well documented that all the drug use and stuff that he had and alcohol and all that, there was only so long that his body was going to hold up. And Hogan, with the amount of steroids and everything that he put in his body, is only so long. I was talking to my buddy about it this morning, and we're like, it's amazing that he made it to 71, to be honest with you, because he was a monster. I mean, he was an absolute monster. Look how big he was, and like he was massive. The 24-inch pythons and all that. It's like, and then when again, you go into when he basically lied, and they asked him on Arsenio Hall if he had ever done steroids, and he said no. And then years later,
that generation was just like because I was growing up, with the McGuire, like the baseball generation of massive steroid. Like I remember, like, because in the early 90s and the early 2000s, those like big like sports eras were blowing up. The internet was created. Things were like really popularized in a whole new way. And then like you had these like massively strong men, and you're like, we didn't understand. And then it came out later and now I think even more so the research of how bad that is for your body. So yeah, I will say like 71 is it's still short. There's no time long enough for if you love someone, of course, but it's pretty long life in terms of like how much he did.
Especially for wrestlers. I mean, he outlived a lot of people that in his generation. I mean, for sure. It's just like it was. And I saw an article, it might have been a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and they somewhat referenced it in this article that I just read about Jimmy Hart saying that Hogan, it wasn't looking good and Hogan's not doing well. And they were really close. I don't know if they were still close, but they were really close. So he might have known, and we'll probably get more information on it. I will say it's probably going to push forward because there was so many rumors and of the, excuse me, the biopic that was supposed to happen with Chris Hemsworth. I don't know if it's still going to be Hemsworth, but I bet you it gets pushed forward a little bit more now. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
Right. That will be interesting. It'll be interesting. I always think about this with biopics. What part of their life are they talking about? Are they talking about a certain year, a certain event that kind of was the precipice of their entire legacy? Or especially with someone like him, who obviously in this latter part has been so clouded with bad stuff, just like really unlikable characteristics that kind of watered down. And like, do you separate that? What do you do there? Not real. I don't know the answer to that. I'm the type that's like, I cannot like someone, but I don't think I'm just like, I don't think death is funny. So he has family and people who care about him. So I am on that camp of things, but I hear people, I just don't think it's like the time for, like, obviously you cannot like someone and you can be like, I don't care, but that's not how I
don't think there's any, you're allowed to, his behavior and things that he did, you are 1,000,000% allowed to say he let me down. I am not a fan of his. I lost all respect for him. But anyone who roots for somebody's like demise or says like, "Oh, good riddance." I don't think there are some people. There are some people in the world that maybe deserve that. I don't know if Hulk Hogan was one of those people.
Right. I can think of a few like
me too.
yeah.
Me too. But
yeah, but for the most part, like when someone's just like a caricature, like, and that's kind of what he was, like this pop culture caricature. It
right.
doesn't.
You're allowed to be disappointed with his actions. 100%.
Yes.
You're allowed to not like him. You're allowed
and to not like him.
Yeah. 100. And I saw
All of
someone
that.
in the comment section say he let us down. I think that's fair to say. 100%. But anyway, Hulk Hogan, gone to 71 years old. Put your thoughts in there, guys. What do you think? Were you a fan of the Hulkster growing up? Put your thoughts and memories that you had of Hulk Hogan.